Now think about your shirt. Can you place that country on a map? Be honest. Who cannot? Be honest. Own it. Like, I do not know anything about where my thing came from. Thank you, one person. 2 people. 3. Be proud. 4. Thank you. That would totally been me. I have no idea what Bangladesh is. It's actually completely surrounded by India. It's fascinating. Anyhow, so think about your shirt. Think about the people who live in that country. Do you have any idea what their life is like? Do you have any idea what life is like for the people who made your shirt? And I wish that these were like the deep questions I was asking myself when I looked at that label on my shirt. It wasn't. I looked at the label on my shirt and I thought, dude, I'm going to Honduras. I suckered my brother Kyle into going with me. We made plans to go to this really remote region on the Mosquito Coast of Honduras into the jungle. And I learned this biologist was going to be there at the same time that we were going to be there. So I called him up and he was like, hey, would you and your brother be interested in going in search of the elusive American crocodile in the jungles of Honduras? And I'm like, that sounds awesome. And it did sound awesome back home in the Midwest. Then we flew to San Pedro Sula, Honduras, smaller airport, dirt runway, back of a pickup truck, 5 hours into the jungle. We get there, we eat dinner in this hut, and then we come out, and it's dark, I'm like, oh, I'm tired, that's a long day of travel. And then Carl, the crazy biologist, says, hey, you guys ready to go? Search for the elusive American crocodile? I'm like, it's dark outside. You get eaten when it's dark outside in the jungle. That's what I'm thinking. And what I say is, yeah, let's go, buddies. And then this is our boat. It's a dugout canoe. If you itch your butt, if you itch your butt wrong in this thing, you risk falling in the water. So we take the dugout canoe as far as we can upstream until we can't navigate anymore. And then we get out and we walk in water, sometimes up to mid-thigh, looking for crocodiles. What could go wrong with this plan, right? So first I'm thinking at any moment, I say crocodile, is that rock? Like, what is going on? And I'm thinking at any moment, crocodile is going to munch on me. It's going to do that death roll thing, right before I go under, I can holler at my brother, you can have my baseball cards, And then I'm like, done. But then it was like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. We've been out there so long. Eventually I'm so tired, I hope the crocodile got me just to end the suffering. The crocodile doesn't get any of us. We get back in the canoe, we head back to the village. And we're sitting there, and got our headlamps on, and bugs are flying in and out of our headlamps, and bats are zipping in and out, inches from our face, eating the bugs. Don't even care, I am so tired, half asleep. And then Carl, the crazy biologist, yells, kill it, kill it. Whatever's going on, I am awake now. And the guide smacks the water 5 times, or 3 times, and up floats 5 feet of white belly. And it was a fer de lance, the most feared creature in the jungles of Honduras. One bite has enough venom to kill 5 people. Count how many people are in this dugout canoe. So Carl reaches down his long critter grabbers, picks up the snake, sets it in the middle of the boat, which is a small problem because that's where I am sitting. So it's just me and certain horrible death. And at this point, I've given up on life. This thing's gonna bite me. It's the end. And I'm just not moving. And then behind me, my brother's sitting. He's like, Kelsey, scoot back. And I think, that's probably a pretty good idea right about now. So I scoot back. I'm sitting on my brother's lap. He scoots back. He's sitting on our guide's lap. We're like 3 grown men occupying 2 feet of a 20-foot canoe. Then we learn one of the rules of the jungle. When a deadly venomous snake is in the boat, jump in the water. So we jumped in the water. Eventually, Carl secured the snake. The next day, he killed it, and there's my brother holding it. The crocodiles didn't get us, the snakes didn't get us, but we didn't get out of there unscathed. So I went off to do something that I'll talk about. My brother was wrapping up his PhD at Purdue University, and he was feeling kind of run down. They thought it was all the tests and papers he was working on. And then he had to go to an immunology conference in France. And here's my brother Kyle at the immunology conference in France with malaria. It's kind of malaria that comes back multiple times, and he's fine. He's completely fine. I was taking a tone of oh, he's not with us anymore. No, he's completely fine. I'll talk to you tonight about is cocoa. So this has enough cocoa to the amount of cocoa in like a Hershey's chocolate bar. Right? That's a cocoa pod. Who's the first time they've ever seen a cocoa pod? Yeah. Not surprising. I really hadn't either until I started to get into the stuff. So that's a cocoa tree. That's a cocoa pod. And so I went to talk to cocoa farmers, and every place I went to farm alongside the folks to kind of understand what they're going through. And I visited some farms. I met Michael on one of the farms. He's a father of 3. He earns 1/3 of 1 penny for the amount of cocoa in a Hershey's chocolate bar. In order to support his family, like how he would like to support them, he would have to earn about half a penny more. Like, who wouldn't pay half a penny more for Michael and his family to be able to live somewhat comfortably? As it is now, the cocoa prices swing wildly. If they're up, his kids can go to school. If they're down, they can't. So why is this? Why is it this the case that he makes so little and that half penny can't make it all the way back to him? And it's really because there's only a few companies in the middle that actually control the good itself, and they have power over the producers and the consumers. So and this is kind of how it's all in farming now, is that we have this global food system where you get these crazy things that happen. Like in 1991, the global coffee crop was worth $30 billion, and producing countries kept 40% of it. And today, it's worth $70 billion, so it's more than doubled, and they only keep 10% of it. So they actually get a smaller piece of a larger pie. And even in the United States, the real price of a basket of food since 1984 has gone up like just under 3%. And the cut to farmers in the United States has gone down 35%. So it's tougher and tougher to make a living as a farmer. And that's one of the reasons that we're seeing this exodus of farmers leaving to go to the cities. It's the same way in Indiana, right? So I went to, I was following this guy from San Luis Obispo who's been going to this, to the Ivory Coast, this region for about the past decade. He takes tools, he just sits and talks with the cocoa farmers and sits with the village chief and listens to what their needs and concerns are. His name's Tom Newhouse. So Tom has been working with this guide named, I use a different name in the book. So it's Daniel. I call him Daniel in the book. It's not his real name. So he's been using him for years. And so Daniel's like, well, you can come. I have a cocoa farm. You can work as a cocoa farmer on my farm. So that's what we did. And there I met a fellow by the name of Solo, who I'm standing with there. And I have a short video that kind of shows my first experience with Solo out in cocoa fields. What I want to talk to you tonight about is cocoa. So this has enough cocoa to the amount of cocoa in like a Hershey's chocolate bar. Right? That's a cocoa pod. Who's the first time they've ever seen a cocoa pod? Yeah. Not surprising. I really hadn't either until I started to get into the stuff. So that's a cocoa tree. That's a cocoa pod. And so I went to talk to cocoa farmers, and every place I went to farm alongside the folks to kind of understand what they're going through. And I visited some farms. I met Michael on one of the farms. He's a father of 3. He earns 1/3 of 1 penny for the amount of cocoa in a Hershey's chocolate bar. In order to support his family, like how he would like to support them, he would have to earn about half a penny more. Like, who wouldn't pay half a penny more for Michael and his family to be able to live somewhat comfortably? As it is now, the cocoa prices swing wildly. If they're up, his kids can go to school. If they're down, they can't. So why is this? Why is it this the case that he makes so little and that half penny can't make it all the way back to him? And it's really because there's only a few companies in the middle that actually control the good itself, and they have power over the producers and the consumers. So and this is kind of how it's all in farming now, is that we have this global food system where you get these crazy things that happen. Like in 1991, the global coffee crop was worth $30 billion, and producing countries kept 40% of it. And today, it's worth $70 billion, so it's more than doubled, and they only keep 10% of it. So they actually get a smaller piece of a larger pie. And even in the United States, the real price of a basket of food since 1984 has gone up like just under 3%. And the cut to farmers in the United States has gone down 35%. So it's tougher and tougher to make a living as a farmer. And that's one of the reasons that we're seeing this exodus of farmers leaving to go to the cities. It's the same way in Indiana, right? So I went to the phone this guy from San Luis Obispo who's been going to this to the Ivory Coast, this region, for about the past decade. He takes tools. He just sits and talks with the cocoa farmers and sits with the village chief and listens to what their needs and concerns are. His name's Tom Newhouse. So Tom has been working with this guide named, what's his name? I use a different name in the book. So it's Daniel. I call him Daniel in the book. It's not his real name. So he's been using him for years. And so Daniel's like, well, you can come. I have a cocoa farm. You can work as a cocoa farmer on my farm. So that's what we did. And there I met a fellow by the name of Solo, who I'm standing with there. And I have a short video that kind of shows my first experience with Solo out in cocoa fields. We'll see how it goes. I'm only going to work for an hour, so hopefully I don't get fired. It's my region. And so I did, but Solo's the only one that really spoke English, but still I thought, like, just talking to him, like, on a deeper level about these serious issues in front of, like, all these people in the village was probably not the best idea. So then we go off to talk more privately in Solo's room. And so it's just kind of like step back a little bit. Solo has, what is happening? Solo has been there for 4 months and hasn't been paid anything. He says if he works another 8 months, he might get, $300 after the end of the year. So Solo tells me that he doesn't like it here, and that he asked to leave, but he's not allowed to leave. Solo told me that the donkeys get treated better than he does, because at least they get fed when they're not working. Solo told me that they do worse things to him than beat him. My guide, the guy that Solo works for, Solo calls him master. And when you hear another human being master in this day and age, it just shakes something in your soul. And I don't know what to do, if I should do anything, what's going on. People don't like me talking to Solo, so they come and eventually get us. And there's a whole celebration going on where Tom's sitting out there in one of the guest of honor seats, and I sit next to him, dancing and singing. And they just right before we went out in cocoa fields, they fed us bat and cane rat and all this great delicacies, which was one of the things that they say maybe began started Ebola, eating these kind of bush meats and stuff. Are great. I think I'm in the clear though, so don't worry. So I'm sitting out there, and Tom's like, "How'd it go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, so Solo is a slave," and we both were just just floored. And but I'm like, we need to act like we're happy here. It's all the celebrations going on. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go out and dance, right? So I go out and dance, and I'm dirty dancing with someone's grandma or something. And the whole time I'm trying to think about how I'm like, hey grandma, I'm thinking what do I do? What do I do for how am I gonna get Solo out of here? So I ended up hatching this plan where I'll hire Solo as my translator because he speaks English. The official language in Ghana is English. My translator, my guide, Daniel, knew that I needed someone to go back and talk to some farmers. So I did that. I got Solo out of there, and we went to talk with Michael the next day. We branched off, and Daniel and Tom went one way, and Solo and I went on to interview Michael. At the end of the day of interviewing Michael, I paid Solo $40. I'm like, Solo, what are you going to go do? Or what are you doing? What are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to go to Ghana. I'm like, who am I to stop you? You're a free man as far as I'm concerned. So he takes that $40. I go with him. We go to the nearest city, kind of this little small place where you can catch a bus. And all he has, all the possessions that he's carrying, he has a sheet of paper with phone numbers written on it for his family. And then he's got 7 pictures of his mom, dad, brother, and sister, and that's it. So he goes to the place where you can rent a cell phone. He pulls out that sheet of paper and he calls up his brother, who used to kind of be in the same region. And he dials the number, hear it ring, you can see the hope in his eyes, and then no one answers, he hangs up. Tries again, hangs up. He looks at me and says, with or without my brother, I am going to go to Ghana. About this time, I get a text message from Daniel that says, if you go with Solo to Ghana, I will have you arrested. So I'm like, whoa, at this point, like Solo and I are kind of on edge, like we think that there might be people looking for us. And Solo's like, I need a shot. Like, I do not blame you. So we go to the nearest like ramshackle, like 10-shack bar. It was like guys that blitzed out of their mind, like 3 guys. And then Solo orders a shot and asks me if I want one. I'm like, no thanks. Sometimes places like this, it'll make you go blind or it could kill you. So you go ahead, drink alone. So Solo takes a shot and we go out and we're standing in the street. He's like, I need to go to the bathroom. So he's like, wait here. And he walks off to go to the bathroom. And I wait. And I wait. And he never comes back. All I'm left with is this message that he gave me. He wrote this message when we were back in the village before there was any kind of plan to hire him as my translator or anything. He knew I was going to be traveling through Ghana, so he gave me this note to give to his parents. It says, my mother and father, sorry for not telling you before leaving. I am not missing. I will be back again. Don't worry about me. This is Solomon. I am not missing. A couple days later, I heard that Solo was back on the farm. Did somebody get him? And take him back? Perhaps more terrifying, and probably more likely, did Solo look at his options and choose to go back? Look at the opportunities before him, weighed them, and chose slavery. I think a lot of travel just seems different, right? When I'm in travel mode, I'm like, what is that building over there? What is the population here? Or much more open to having a conversation with someone I've never met, as opposed to just being in my rut of life, which I still get in Muncie, Indiana. But I think if we all kind of see the world as travelers, we can get out of that a little bit. Before I wrap up here, if you text your email address to this phone number, I'll enter you to win, random selection kind of thing, a copy of one of my books that I will leave for you here. And I'll put this back up. I'm going to leave you with one last story. When I was researching coffee in Colombia, I wanted to go to this fair trade coffee co-op in northern Colombia. It's really hard to get back. It's in the mountains, and we're taking this SUV, and there's like hardly any roads, and we're going down these trails, and there's like skeletons of SUVs, of probably like foolish journalist skeletons at the wheel of those same SUVs who tried to make this journey. We eventually make it back to the Arhuaco here, and the indigenous group, and they first were giving us like this stink eye, and they got down, what are you doing here? And eventually they kind of like let us in, and they showed us around their cultural and spiritual capital, Nabusimekwe. And they told me that this is where they come to make decisions about man and land. And, so the Arhuaco are basically fair trade and organic by culture. They don't really take anything more than they give back. As opposed to the average American consuming the amount of resources of 32 Kenyans. So we have a large impact. So they told me that we come here and we pray. And we see what you all are doing to people, to planet, and we pray for you. And we believe that our prayers keep the world from falling to pieces. These people who basically have zero impact on people and planet outside their little village believe that they have the ultimate impact. Now let's look at ourselves. We often talk about how not to have an impact. Don't buy this, don't do that. It seems like such a passive way to live our lives. So I'll leave you with this last question. I think we need to ask a bigger and better question. What will your impact be? Thank you very much.